Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 7 p.m. Let me call to order the November 3rd, 2015 meeting of the Merrimack Planning Board. Let me remind everyone who will speak tonight to sign in and make sure the microphone's turned on and speak clearly into it so the folks at home can hear. Our next Planning Board meeting will be December 1st at 7 p.m. in this Matthew Thornton room. Let's see. We will appoint Nelson to vote for Mike, who's absent today. And are we missing another one? Or is that it?
You can't appoint anyone for Tom because he's ex officio.
Right. So Nelson will vote. Jeff, you're still alternate status for today. And moving forward, that brings us to Planning and Zoning Administrator's report. What do we got, Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Before I get into the item in your packet, just wanted to take the moment to introduce Robert Price, our new assistant planner, who started with us on Friday. Robert comes to us after several years with the town of Raymond, as well as some experience with both Central and Southern New Hampshire regional planning commissions. We're glad to have Robert on board. He has some history here in Merrimack. He spent part of his childhood here, went to school here, so we welcome him and look forward to working with him and hope that you will welcome him as well.
Thank you, Robert, and nice to have you here, and welcome aboard.
Thank you. The other item I have for the Planning and Zoning Administrator's report, in your packet you'll find a memo from me regarding the Valley View offsite improvements, regarding the called performance surety. Attached to my memo you'll find another memo with details from Kyle Fox, the Deputy Director of Public Works and Town Engineer. The work for the offsite improvements for the project was completed in October. And Public Works and Finance are in the process of returning the unused funds back to the developer, minus 10% of the original surety, which would be kept in lieu as a maintenance bond, as we would in a typical bonding process. Because the surety was called by the board, there's no official board action necessary. However, the Finance Department is asking that the Planning Board give a consensus that they're supportive of this approach to keep $32,578.87 as a maintenance surety for 2 years. So we have something in the public record regarding this.
What's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, before we make a vote, could I ask the question? We appear to be giving the gentleman back. We appear to be giving the gentleman back $77,219.36.
That's correct.
Have we accounted for the extra work we're doing to make barriers, as a result of we've got to put police signs up or something? Is that all being taken?
That's all the offsite improvements that were part of the approved plan have been completed by Public Works using the money that was available through the called surety. So there is no additional funding needed from the town for any further improvements.
So everything is done.
Well, I think given everything else, we should have a buggery factor. But I mean that's.
I will note that the money was not actually put up by Mr. Maggio. There is another person who would put up the money for this. So this money does not actually go back to Mr. Maggio.
Was it somebody's cash surety, or is there a bonding company?
There was a bond that was placed by another person in support of Mr. Maggio. It's his money that it would be returned to.
Okay.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Well, the work's done. Has anybody been out there to take a look at it? Just out of curiosity.
I've driven up there.
Like?
Yes, it's
good.
Been much better if it had been all done without all the hassle.
Yeah, no question at all. Well, I'm glad that it looks good. I know that we haven't heard from any
We
of the
haven't
abutters,
heard anything from the abutters, but I presume you haven't either.
No, it's not agenda. So
there were a couple of abutters who had come to the town council meeting when the traffic ordinance was being discussed, but outside of that, we have not heard anything else.
And that's been adopted, that traffic ordinance?
That was adopted at the last meeting, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Now, you indicated we don't need to take a vote. You just wanted a consensus of the board.
Yep.
I support the action that's proposed. Does anybody else?
Consensus, yes.
Everybody's consensus saying yes? Nodding their heads?
Yes.
Good enough, Tim?
That's all I need. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else in the Planning and Zoning Administrator's report?
I do not have anything else this evening.
Any questions for members of the board for the staff? Nelson?
I thought Tim had one other thing we were going to talk about, and I can't remember.
Under discussion of other items, I'm going to bring that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, because I think I said in my email we would bring it up under this, but that's okay, as long as it's on here somewhere.
Yes.
was the-
That's my thought was, but okay.
It was the pipeline, yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else under Planning and Zoning Administrator's report, that brings us to item 3 on our agenda, which is the John J. Flatley Company as applicant and owner. And this is continued review for consideration of final approval of an application for a site plan to construct 240 multifamily residences, clubhouse, and associated parking and drainage improvements. Per the requirement of Flatley mixed-use conditional use permit, the parcels are located at number 645, 673, 685, 703, and 707 DW Highway in the I-1 Industrial, Aquifer Conservation, and Wellhead Protection Districts. Tax map 6E, lot 31, 33, 34, 35, and 36. And this item is continued from the June 16th, July 21st, August 18th, September 1st, and September 15th Planning Board meetings. And as per normal, I will recuse myself from the rest of consideration of this item.
Pity the Cubs aren't playing.
There we go. No Cubs game today. Going this way so I get comfortable.
Good evening, Kevin.
Good evening. How are you all?
Before you go too far, would you like to designate Jeff to vote in Bob's place?
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you very much. Mr. Jeff, I would be happy to designate you to vote whilst Mr. Chairman sits over there in the quiet. But you lose it once he comes back. Sorry about it. Thank you very much indeed, Tim. Kevin.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, we have submitted revised plans to the town. There are four governing bodies on this project in a whole. It's the planning board. The zoning board will be involved for the wetland crossing that we discussed for the walking trail. The Alteration of Terrain Bureau, New Hampshire DOT for access onto Daniel Webster Highway. I guess I can add in another, Merrimack Village District for the water. So we've got a lot of different bodies involved in this. And if you may recall, at the beginning of this process, a lot of the reviews were going to be overlapped. And we discussed with Merrimack Village District, Planning Department, and others to have each review body review a certain specific thing. For instance, CLD is reviewing the civil work. MVD is reviewing the water system, and so on down the line. DOT will be involved with their own access work and so on down the line. So our last submission to the revised plans to the town as far as CLD's review, which is the board's consultant, was actually back in September. My understanding is those plans have not gone to CLD because there was a decision to wait to hear from Merrimack Village District and so on, the other people involved in this. We would, I guess the request, if we could have those plans sent to CLD. There weren't many comments really that needed to be addressed with CLD. We had a very productive meeting with the planning department end of August, sometime in September, somewhere in that ballpark. And we went over each of the comments from CLD to see which ones actually applied to this project, which ones may not apply to this project. And we got through that fine, and there really ended up being 5, 6, 7 minor comments, and those have been addressed. The reason we'd like the plans forward to CLD for their, although I'm anticipating would be their sign-off, is we would like their sign-off prior to submitting to the Alteration of Terrain Bureau. It just makes that whole process a little bit smoother. In addition, I just received an email from the Merrimack Village District. I believe I got one yesterday afternoon. I got one today. So they weren't really in the same time frame as CLD, and it's kind of throwing our timing off a little bit with how we want to proceed and just get the approvals as efficiently as we can. So in our mind, if we could have CLD do their review, which should not take too long, that will allow us to file the alteration of terrain permit. The DOT permit, we're going to be getting a submission check to Fieldstone for that submission tomorrow, Thursday, so DOT will have that by the end of the week. And that, I think, will allow us to move forward. I know one of CLD's comments had to do with the walking path and that area where we're going to cross through the wetland, take that little bridge out and replace it. We just want to make sure there's no comments from them regarding that before we go to the ZBA, which we need to do that work, as well as the surrounding work around the wetlands. So that's our. Again, I don't really have much new to offer tonight, but I would just like to see if we can all maybe be on the same page as how I'm hoping this review process will finalize, because I believe, I should say I hope, that if we come in next month, that we will have our sign-off from CLD, and that the board would hopefully grant an approval with the conditions, alteration of terrain permit, Merrimack Village District can conform to their requirements and so on, DOT permit and so on. So I guess really at this point I'm hoping that we can get the plans to CLD and hopefully have their sign off.
Before I just raise that with my colleagues and obviously with staff, can I ask where you are relative to the meeting we had on October the 20th, 2015, where I think the consensus, well, I know what the minutes say, the consensus was that the applicant was going to build a commercial building separate from the residential area. Is that in your new plans?
It's not in the new plans. We need to have somebody on board, and we've had some, our leasing has had preliminary discussions with a couple of people. There is still somebody else that my understanding is still very interested in the site, that I'm going to personally make sure that they're contacted. My belief at this point is that they have not been contacted. I believe it's a real estate agent.
So do you think that there's a possibility that when you come forward on December 1st, which is the next meeting for this board, you might have got somebody interested enough to give us the confidence to allow you to do what you're going to do?
Well, I mean, at this point, the board's made it clear that without a non-residential or a commercial use, that the original approval will stay and we'll be allowed to build and occupy the 4 and not the 5th. So, and we're fine with that. I think we and the board has gone through. We've beaten it to death, basically.
I would agree with that. Yes. Yes, in fact, I think I left at the last meeting beaten to death.
Yes, beaten to death is probably not too overboard.
But you are doing quite well.
So if we have somebody, then super. Then we will go by the approval of the conditional use permit, and we will request of either the building department or the board or both to allow the construction and occupation of all 5. And if nothing comes to fruition at the time this plan gets approved, then that top building on the left will not get built.
Okay.
And we agree with the board. We have no arguments, and we understand the board's wish to really try to get this rolling as a complete mixed use, and we appreciate the board's input on that.
Okay. Because you're obviously doing quite well in your business park in Bedford. So we've put 2 new people in there in the last few days, I understand.
I believe
so maybe you can persuade one of them to have a branch office.
I will do my best.
I'm sure you will. Given that the implication is something through CLD, Tim, I think it calls upon you to give us some advice.
At this stage, the last set of plans that we received was back on September 4th. I'll have to check to see if those were sent to CLD. I'm not sure that they were. I think one of the reasons that they probably were not sent initially to CLD was the other comments that still remain from the September 10th memo that Julian had put together. Outside of CLD, there were still a number of design comments that were made by staff. We did not want to have something addressing those comments then impact what CLD was going to review. But if Kevin wants us to send to CLD the package that was submitted on September 4th, before these are done, I can certainly do that, but I'd just caution that may or may not have impact with the other changes that the other departments are.
Kevin, would you be able to just go through those quick amendments, not in this meeting, I mean separately with the staff, to see if you can tidy the loose ends? Because it would make good sense to have. I mean, it could all be done in the period
absolutely.
of time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the CLD is so
No.
little on the CLD
And
end. at
I'd
this
want to be
point.
cognizant of not spending the applicant's money on CLD reviews. That's part of my responsibility as well.
Tim, can you also, with your good offices, persuade certainly MVD and anybody else from the town area who's involved to try and work together with Kevin to get this thing?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we just received an email from MVD. The latest one was today. They need an additional review fee. So we're going to process that this week and get it to them. We'll continue to work with them, and I don't think we're far off as far as they're concerned at this point either. So.
So I sort of think I hear from you a request to continue this matter to December the 1st.
Yes, with the hopes that we're pretty much completed at that point, we can allow the board to make a vote.
I would respectfully ask that before that, we give at least a week and a half or so prior to that, so that staff has time to review the revisions of the plans.
Sure, yeah. You only have one meeting in December?
Yeah, we have two. We have
2 in December, only 1 in November. So, I mean, there is
the
the
1st and the 15th?
1st and the 15th, I
first and
think.
the 15th.
Or do you think would it be easier on your end?
If you want to do the 15th, that certainly gives you a little bit more time. I will caution you that you will be after all of the CIP hearings, which are the first things on the agenda for the 15th. So you'll have to sit through the town, the school board, and the MVD CIP presentation.
Kevin, go for the 1st if you can do
Why
it.
don't we aim for the 1st, and if we need to, we'll continue it to the
Yeah,
15th
it's a
if
good
there's
idea.
room after that.
Do I hear a motion on this subject, please?
Just a question first. Kevin didn't mention the wastewater treatment plant, and that's got to be another review by the town.
We've got several comments in Julian's memo that are all wastewater related from the wastewater division.
Okay, so they have reviewed it.
Yes.
Okay, I just didn't hear it mentioned, and I didn't want it to be forgotten. That given, I would move that we postpone further discussion until December the 1st?
First. In this room at
In this room at
7:30,
7:30.
with no further notification to abutters.
Very good.
7
Seconded by, I think actually Desiree got in first, so that's proposed by Mr. Disco and seconded by Desiree. And Mr. Thompson, you have some other thought?
The one other thing I just wanted to ask Kevin, have you been to Lower Merrimack River Local Advisory Committee?
Yes,
Okay.
we've met with them. Everything with them is squared away.
Just said we hadn't seen anything from them, so I just wanted to verify. Thank you.
Okay.
In that case, I'll call the question. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Carried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7-0. And thank you very
Thank
much,
you, I
Kevin.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you for your presentation
Thank you.
tonight.
Can
Short
I
and
ask
sweet
one-
and enjoyable.
Can I ask one other question on this?
Please.
There was discussion earlier about the timing of the fifth building.
We've agreed, Jeff, this was agreed.
Right, I missed
that-
the meeting.
You missed the meeting. What's been agreed is they are sticking with the original CUP, which calls for some commercial development before they can develop the fifth building.
But we're talking about commercial development potentially occurring now.
We don't know yet.
Not
Kevin-
it would not. It would not be part of this. It would be a separate site plan.
Yeah, we would have to go to the second.
But we're trying to tie the two so he can do the fifth building, sorry. Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to give you the gavel back.
It's a virtual gavel.
I'll give you one for Christmas if you want one. I've got a rubber mallet which I use for testing the weight with the tire pressures.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to item 4 on our agenda, which is John C. Elias of JDog New Hampshire LLC, applicant and owner. Review for acceptance and consideration of final approval of an application for a home occupation to permit a junk removal service. The parcel is located at 59 Bean Road in the R Residential and Aquifer Conservation Districts. Tax map 6B, lot 145. Tim, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
In your packet, you should have Julian's memo regarding this. This is a relatively straightforward home occupation application, and we recommend that the board discuss the particulars with the applicant, and if you find that there are needs for any conditions, to add those to any approval that you move forward with.
Thank you, Tim. Please introduce yourself. Did you get a chance to sign in on the clipboard? Okay. Introduce yourself and please tell us about your project.
My name's Johnny Elias.
John, I don't think your microphone's on. Touch the spot where it
there
says
we go.
push. There we go.
Okay, my name's Johnny Elias.
My middle name is B as in boy, not C. I saw that on the letter there.
Okay. B.
Actually, it's a national franchise. It's a junk removal hauling service. It's a veteran-owned franchise. It's for veterans, military veterans, and their family members to operate. I'm retired from the military, did over 20 years, and I'm currently working with the Department of Justice right now, but I'm looking at starting this business. I moved to Merrimack. I live in New Hampshire now for about 3 years. So I'm looking at trying to do something a little bit different, and I'm hoping to be able to get approval for this business to work out of my home there.
Okay. So this is a business where you're franchised, so you buy this Humvee and trailer from the company with the wrap and the advertising on it for the J-Dog concept.
Yes.
And then you're using your home for office space,
Correct.
but there's no storage of materials or anything on your
No,
with your
sir.
home?
No, the only thing I will have will be whenever I do collect any junk removal from any items and stuff. My goal is to pretty much within 24 hours is to either recycle, refurbish, repurpose, or donate, of course, before we actually send it to the landfill, I guess you could say.
So at the end of the day, whatever you can't use in some other way does end up with the landfill
Correct.
here in town?
I already talked to the transfer station, local ones. They stated that if I pick up anything, let's say Merrimack, I have to go to the Merrimack transfer station. If it's in any other location, I have to go to their transfer station.
Okay, so you've spoken to them already?
Yes.
Okay. So I see on the diagram where you've drawn sort of the outline of your house, and it shows that this truck and trailer will be parked kind of up next to your house,
Correct.
behind or further back from the front leading edge of your home. Does it completely get next to your house like that, so it's not at all in the front yard?
Yeah, it would be right next to it's a part of my driveway, right in front of my garage, which is
Okay.
the rear left.
And then, as you drive by from the roadway, what are you able to see when that truck's parked there?
Well, you'll be able to see my Humvee or in the trailer itself.
Okay.
But it'll be on the side, but it's right next to trees. I have
Okay.
a row of trees there.
Are you going to have a dumpster anywhere on the site or anything
No,
that you're
sir.
going to use to keep that trash? Are there any of the recycled or reusable, repurposed stuff going to be kept in your house or around the house?
If I have to, my goal is within 24 hours I will be removing the item. So it'll either be on the trailer itself or it'll be in my garage.
Okay. The stuff that's still useful for some things, obviously recycling goes to a recycling center, but the things that are going to be repurposed, where do you have
It'll be
connections to?
my goal will be using local charities, or looking at more like the Goodwill, the Salvation Army, the Habitat for Humanity down in Nashua.
The Restore?
Yeah, the Restore.
Okay. Is this a new business for you, or you've been doing
Yes,
this
it
before?
is. It's first time.
Okay. Does anybody else have comments or questions? We have to-
The only one I picked up on, if I may, on the list of things you were prepared to take is the propane tanks. And I was just a little bit sensitive that anything involving fuel has a potential hazard. I mean, you say no hazardous weights. Well, a semi-empty or 80% empty propane tank is like a bomb, as I understand it. How are you going to ensure that anybody with either a gas tank or a propane tank or any other tank containing or that has contained fuel is safe?
Yeah, what we look at is, we subcontract a lot of stuff. For example, if we know that it's something that we call it, like for example, a big, huge tank itself, we'll make sure we get with the appropriate agency to come out and make sure that this tank is able to get removed. If it's something that I'm not going to be able to do, I'll get with the headquarters building and actually get their guidance. And a lot of times we've done it in the past is we'll contract a professional that will be able to make sure that it's removed properly, and we kind of lead the way on that.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. And then other than propane tanks, there's nothing hazardous that you're willing to
no.
haul away for folks. So all my old paint cans, I got to get rid of those myself.
Yes, sir.
Well, you'll have a bit of trouble getting rid of air conditioners because nobody wants to take apart used air conditioner anymore. But I mean, that's just another. Just cut the pipe and let the stuff evaporate. But anyway,
But I think the transfer station takes those.
the tanks is the one I worried about.
For all of the refrigeration and air conditioning and all of that, when the transfer station wants their $10, is that something that your customer
we
pays
will-
for you?
We will build it into the fee.
Okay.
$15.
$15 down?
Yes.
I hadn't gotten rid of air conditioner in a while, I guess. TV or something. What's the will of the board with respect to the question of accepting the application for review?
Okay. I just had a couple more questions before we
Sure,
get that far.
please do. What do you got?
The list of what you will take, how does your customer know that? How does your customer know what is the items that you will accept?
Basically, we'll remove almost anything. They'll contact us through our website, JDog.
Okay. So
And
the
then-
website will list all these items that you will take?
Yes.
And perhaps even ones that you will not take?
Right.
So they know up front.
They should, will know, they'll contact us, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And if I want to hire you, you're going to come out and sort of see what I have and then tell me
Yes,
if
we'll
there's
we'll
anything
do
there.
basically, if you go through the website itself, the JDog website, actually, you'll get scheduled through there. They'll contact you, actually will get scheduled, you get to schedule it yourself or request a phone call. Then I will call you, and then we'll discuss what you have, and then I'll discuss it with the best way of handling.
So is this always going to be something that there's just one truck, or is there ever a point where you'd look at having a second truck?
Yes, well, in the future, hopefully, if I'm able to expand, then I will be looking at expanding.
Would you want to, have a second truck or expand on this site, or would that be something that you would want to?
I'm actually looking at possibly other territories, locations, actually. That's where I'm looking at.
Where would the trucks be based out of? From your home or from some other place?
Well, I will,
If you
If
have
I
more
ex-
than one.
if I do, I'll probably have my home initially on if it's a second truck. But then if the other locations, I will be basing them out their locations, territories. For example, if I'm looking at, let's say, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm going to have them drive from here all the way there, I'll actually find a location up there.
No, I understood. I'm just worried about the impact. I'm thinking about, not worried about,
Right.
we're thinking about the impact on your
Yes.
neighbors of having the trucks parked
Yeah, I don't
out there,
plan
whether-
on. I understand. I would understand the board's concern. I don't plan on having like 5 or 6 trucks parked in my house in the future.
I noticed in your application you say that you'd have 2 employees.
Yes.
That's not counting yourself, so that's 2 other people.
Yes, my kids.
Your kids? Easy enough. My kids want to get paid for everything I make them do, too.
But actually, I'm looking at it would be basically be hiring other veterans. There's a program I got to get with the VA hospital. There's a program that's out to help veterans that are coming back, that are that are trying to get back situated, acclimated back to the States, to give them part-time work. There's a program that's out there where I need, let's say if it's a job though I know that I can't do myself, I need some extra hands to help lift or whatever, then I'll go reach out and give them part-time type job. So that's why I'm looking at. That's why I put 2 employees.
Okay. So when that happens with the 2 employees, they're going to drive their own vehicle to your house and leave it there and get in the
Yes.
truck and go there. So you need to have enough parking there for those guys plus your trucks, and it looks like you do. Looks like you have plenty. Jeff, did you have other questions?
Yeah, one other question. Do your neighbors know of your business?
Yes,
interest?
I've talked to a couple of them already.
And they're fully supportive?
Yes, sir. Yeah. The only concern was if I was going to have a bunch. Basically, I know people's concerns mainly thinking that I'm going to have a junkyard. That's what people's concerns are.
Yeah, they don't want that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, regarding outside employees, in order to remain qualified for a home occupation, you can only have 1 external employee that is not a resident of the home itself.
Okay.
Is there kids and they're living at home?
The kids are fine. It's if there's additional employees, then that may be something we'd need to look at in the future.
The application as I read now actually says 2 resident, and the non-resident is left blank. So do we need to have that?
His own kids.
I was just reacting to the question where he mentioned that he may look to add additional employees in the future.
Okay. Mr. Elias, you mentioned that you might be looking for veterans or somebody temporarily if you got really busy or you had something going on. You realize that right now your application doesn't include that. So do you want to make that change, or are
Yes,
you...
please. Yes.
get that sorted out so you're not back here again, and
Right.
and we can consider what it is that you're proposing. So right now there's nothing listed on your application. What do you want it to indicate?
1 non-resident.
1 non-resident? Tim, is it okay to do those changes like this? Okay. Any other comments or questions before we take up the question of accepting it for review? Nelson?
Yeah, just one question. It has to do with your little map, and it shows some trees on the right-hand side of the house. And are those on your property, or is that your neighbor's trees? Just,
It's mixed between both of our properties.
okay, I guess I was wondering where the property line was in relation to the trees and the parked truck. And that was,
Okay, yeah, it's a big wooded area between me and my neighbors.
It's an aerial photograph.
It's on the aerial photograph, Nelson. It's half and half.
about half and half, okay.
Well,
Okay.
actually, no. The greater portion is the neighbour.
But there's a long space between.
Okay. I got you. Any other questions or comments before deciding? What's the will of the board with respect to whether the application is complete?
I'll make a motion that we accept the application as complete to review.
Is there a second for Desiree's motion?
Second.
Second by Lynn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 to accept the application as complete. There are no waivers in here, so are there any members of the public or citizens and abutters that wish to weigh in and offer the board any information on this application before the board takes final action? Terrific, thank you.
Get his name for the record. Get his name for the record.
What's your name, sir? Russell. Do you spell your last name? Okay. And do you live? 62. Okay, so you're across the street?
If you wouldn't mind having them sign in.
Thanks. When you get a second, come on up and sign your name on that clipboard just so it shows that we've gotten some input from you. And with that, there's nobody else in the room, so we'll close the public hearing. What's the will of the board with respect to?
I was just going to ask one question. I was just waiting
Please.
until we accepted it. You say storing things on site for 24 hours. Just wanted to ask the question if businesses are closed, holidays, Sundays, sometimes some of the places where you'd want to put the stuff, especially the dumps closed 2 days in a row, storing things on site for 24 hours, you'll put them in your garage or it'll be in the trailer.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So we won't have any hang up with the fact that he's saying on this 24 hours if it stays. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
that's
wanna
true.
make
If you
sure
pick up
check
stuff
it.
on Saturday, you're not going to get to the dump until Tuesday. So it's technically it's more than
In
24
this
hours.
town,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, there are other towns that do not have that constraint.
As long as things
Other
are in the
towns don't
trailer
count.
or out of sight and
Well,
not in
it-
the yard, then he should be fine.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it, but I agree with Desiree that 24 hours is what he said, and we're going to make clear that we're not going to
Yeah, I don't want to
run
hold
him
him
out of
to
town.
it. If you have it there, I don't want you getting in trouble for 24 hours.
It's
as
the
well.
external evidence issue that becomes an issue. As long as it's concealed or contained properly,
Then we don't know.
then there should not be an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you for the comment, Desiree. Any other comments or questions? What's the will of the board with respect to final disposition?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we grant this final approval for this application of Mr. John B. Elias, subject to any of the conditions. There are none.
Unless you guys have some.
I think with no conditions other than the change you've made to his application for one person, and that was it, I think.
I would suggest before we consider a second that the affirmations that the applicants made with respect to not having a dumpster and not storing things outside and all of that stuff become part of his application or regarded as part of his application.
I will be happy to include those comments.
Is there a second for that amended motion?
Second.
Second by Councillor Mahan. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700. You're all set.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that brings us to item 5 on our agenda, which is discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern. Tim. what
Thank
got
you.
for us?
As Nelson and Alistair and Bob and Councilor Mahan are aware, we did receive some communication over the weekend from a resident inquiring and passing along a set of large-scale heavy construction general conditions amendments to the site plan regulations for the town of Temple that they asked us to consider potentially adopting here in Merrimack. I have had the opportunity to review those. in even greater detail today at the request of the town manager. And doing so, I still have the same impression that I had on Monday, which is that the provision and the way that Temple's regulations are written, which would be an amendment to our site plan regulations, concern me because the way these are written for the town of Temple is a rural community with very little commercial industrial development. And these types of requirements that would make their way into our site plan regulations could potentially then impact commercial and industrial economic development projects that the town of Merrimack is undertaking. There's also the issue of, this is, for backing up a little bit, this is in regards to the Kinder Morgan Northeast Energy Pipeline Project and the concern that the town has proper requirements and regulations for construction associated with that. In addition to that, there's the issue of federal preemption. There is some preemption, but it's a little bit gray in terms of how much preemption there really is in terms of the role of local ordinances, regulations, and state regulations. There's enough gray area that, yes, there's some areas of local ordinances that may still apply. However, I do not believe that any part of the Kinder Morgan pipeline project itself, including the metering station, would likely end up in front of this board in terms of getting a local land use approval. Those approvals would be coming directly from FERC through their process, so there would not be an opportunity for us through site plan regulations to really have much, if any, impact on pipeline construction through adopting any type of regulations in our site plan regulations. I've, again, at the request of the town manager, gone through and highlighted my concerns with their requirements. And much of the requirements that Temple is proposing are already covered in our construction standards that the Public Works Department has and our blasting ordinance that was most recently updated in 2011 prior to the construction of the Merrimack Premium Outlet Project. There are other requirements that, should they be adopted here in Merrimack, I would have significant concerns from an economic development perspective that they would impose burdensome cost and construction delays to the types of economic development projects that we want to encourage here in Merrimack. So I am of the position at this stage that I would not recommend that the town, at least the planning board, approach this as an approach to utilize site plan regulations to address this type of concern.
Thank you for that, Tim. I also did get a chance to look through all of the requirements, and it certainly is a very thorough effort to look at ways to regulate it by Temple. The bit of information that's the most significant to me is that my understanding is the pipeline project or any metering station wouldn't appear before the board, before this board, and as a result, it doesn't make much sense for us to build anything into our site plan regulation that would address it, since we'll never see it. Whatever the town might decide to do in terms of regulation, whether we think we're covered as we stand or whether we want to do something more, in my view, isn't something for the planning board to take up. And essentially, a shorter version of what Tim just said. I don't know if certainly if any members of the board want to see all of the suggested information from Temple, we can get that distributed. If anyone has comments or questions about what's been forwarded to the board or what Tim's recommendations are, let's have that discussion.
I'd like to see a copy of it.
Sure. Okay, so we'll get that one. Just send it to
Yeah,
everybody.
I can send it to everybody. If you're also interested, and if the board is interested, I can send you my marked up version that I sent to the town manager with my comments.
Please.
I'd love that.
In essence, bottom line on what I had spoken to Eileen about is it's clear to me that these proposed amendments in Temple are written with a rural community without professional staff in mind, which is obviously not the situation we have here in Merrimack. So that's where I came from in terms of the comments that I had submitted to the town manager today.
In a small number of the recommended regulations are sort of captured under a heading called planning, and a good deal of them are, bonding roadway construction and repairing the roadway and building roadways to standards if you disturb roadways, and all of those kinds of things are kind of already built into what Kyle and his department do. Counselor.
Yeah, I would also like to make you aware that these were prepared by an engineer and not by an attorney. and some of that fact is reflected in some of the provisions that are in here. And that looking at it, the cost alone to try to administer these would be very high. Unfortunately, the towns west of here do not have a lot of professional staff on board. It's not to criticize them in any way or anything like that. It's just the way it is, and they just figured that nothing like this was ever going to happen to them, and now it has. So our regulations have been 40 years in development and use and challenged and put together. So we've had that experience with those putting those things together. So as Tim has said, many of these things are already incorporated into what we already do.
Thank you for that comment. I don't know if others have comments. Obviously, once everybody gets a chance to look at it, because I know it's not really a level playing field for everybody to have a conversation about something you haven't seen. Obviously, every time we meet, though, we have the open items for open part of our agenda for discussion items, so it can always be.
I just wanted to commend and thank Tim for this professional review of that document. It's 6 pages long, and it's full of a lot of things that relate to what we're doing and things that don't relate. So
Yeah.
I think that was a great job for him to do that in that amount of time that he had. We only got it this Sunday, so.
It was very lengthy, and it's simply a list of things that someone's suggesting are regulated. So 6-page list has got, I don't know, more than 100 items, I would think.
That's what we're paying the big bucks for.
Quite a bit.
This took up a good chunk of my morning today.
I'm sure it did.
Fair enough. Thank you for that, Tim. Any other comments or questions about that item by board members? Anybody else have other discussion items or items of concern to raise? Seeing none, do we have a set of minutes for this time to approve?
October the 20th.
Minutes as printed.
Lynn moves to approve the minutes of October 20th, 2015 as printed. Is there a second for that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
A second to approve as printed. Any further discussion of those minutes?
Yes, I have a couple comments to
What do you
it.
got, Desiree?
Page 3, first paragraph, third line from the bottom of that paragraph. It says that number would change during a water crisis. It's in reference to the time and the time. I think the hours operate. I was to say those numbers should be. What I was to say would say that number instead of that number would say those numbers would change.
I was saying if they had a crisis, they would work more.
They're bringing
hours.
both shifts.
Yeah. So the number of employees and the time, whatever, it's grammatical. Never mind. Scratch that. Sorry. The other one is same paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fourth line down. It says there would be offices in the front for. There would be offices in front and space for equipment and vehicle and material storage and repair rooms. I believe the offices, so it should say in the rear on there. So there would be offices in the front, maybe comma, and then all that other stuff's in the rear, or something to break it out because it looks like a big list.
And the rest of the building.
Because it isn't strictly the rear; it's side and rear.
And the rest of the building.
And the rest of
pays
the
for.
rest of the site, yes, or the rest of the
Alright.
building.
Well, if that's the case, then we could never mind on that, and I'll hush. Happy evening, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Any other comments on the October 20th, 2015 meeting minutes?
Go back to as presented.
As
Yep,
presented.
zero comments.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700. Thank you for that. The only comment that I'd make about the minutes is the line numbers along the side certainly are handy when those.
They disappeared.
It happens. With that, brings us
Chairman,
to
I make a motion that we adjourn.
second.
Second.
Second by Councilor Mahon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
This is
Any
what we're
abstaining?
adjourned.
700. We are adjourned at 7:44.